Hello, my friends. Welcome to another video. We have a lot to cover today, but before we get started, I wanted to give you a quick update on that third market that I was considering doing. Now, I mentioned this a couple of videos back where I was kind of asking for some advice if I should go for it and sign up for this third market or maybe shouldn't. And I had a lot of amazing comments and suggestions and thoughts on how to kind of make that decision, which was really awesome. And for those of you that I've been chatting with in the comments, you already know this, but I decided to go ahead and take the plunge and put in my application for the market. And I just kind of was waiting to see when I was going to hear back so I could share the news with you. And I got a phone call the day before yesterday from the person who orchestrates, all the vendors and everything. And she informed me that I did not get into the market. Now, the reason I didn't get in is actually a really good reason. They cap the number of each type of vendor and they were already at their max for crochet. And I told her, that's great. I don't want to be in a market where it's completely oversaturated with crochet. So it was a good reason. She said I had 3 different options. I could go ahead and use the funds towards another one of their markets, but I don't really know their markets. And this is the big one for like the holidays. So I didn't necessarily want to do that. Option 2 was to just go ahead and get my refund. And option 3 was to hold off on the refund and be essentially the waitlist crochet artist. So if for some reason between now and the event, someone drops out, then they would automatically just put me in. So that's what I told her to do. It means it'll be like another month before I get my refund, but I'm not really worried about that. So I would rather have the option of possibly getting into the market. So that's what I did. I am going to attend this market as a patron. I really want to see what it's like. And I'm kind of thinking, this is a good way for me to just go ahead and explore the market and, not have invested in it. And then if I really do like it, I will make sure that I apply the moment the applications open up next year to get in. But I'm thinking about going to that market and maybe bringing you guys along with me. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We'll go to the market, check out how many crochet vendors are there, what kind of stuff they have, and just kind of get the scoop on how it's run. The second thing I want to touch on is today's video is probably going to be a little longer because I'm going through a lot of details when it comes to barcodes and all the stuff behind that. If you are not interested in that, I will leave timestamps below. I had someone ask how that works, and basically in the little bar that's going across the video now showing kind of where your progress is in the video, there should be little cuts in that show you what that chapter is. So if you're just interested in seeing my makes, that would probably be like the last one or second to last one. And you just click there on that timeline and it'll take you to that part of the video. That being said, if you're not interested in all of the barcode detail, I totally get it, but I am going to start the video with a demo of a resource that I created for you guys, which I think is pretty cool. So if you don't mind, stick around to at least watch the demo. It's pretty quick, just to give you an idea of what's in store for the rest of the video. And if it does pique your interest, you can watch the rest. But after that, I go into all the details on how to use that, how you can use it to make things quicker at your markets and all that good stuff. As a high-level overview of the stuff we're going to cover today, first, we're going to jump into the demo that I mentioned. Then we're going to go into the nitty-gritty detail of the free resource I created. We're going to talk about SKU numbers. We're going to talk about barcodes. We're going to talk about barcode scanners. And last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about Square because I do think a lot of people use that for ringing up their credit card sales. So I'm just going to show you how some of this can be used in conjunction with that. If there are 3 things that I could give you as a takeaway for this video, it's first that SKU numbers are just essentially unique IDs. This could be numbers or letters or any combination thereof. Second is that barcodes are basically a font. It's a representation of your SKU's letters and numbers in different widths of bars and spaces between them. And third, it's that barcode scanners or readers are essentially Bluetooth keyboards. They scan the bars, look at the distance between them and the thicknesses of the bars, and basically key in your SKU number for you. All right, let's get into the demo. Now, I am going to share my screen with you so I can walk you through this. And throughout this video, I'm probably going to be looking down at various lists and notes and things I have to make sure that we're on track. So let's jump into the laptop. For this demo, I am going to be using the free resource that I listed below, but I highly recommend waiting till we get to that section of the video before trying to go download it. I don't want anyone to get intimidated by it or confused by what's in there. So let's get through the demo first, and then we'll get into the free resource. All right, so the first thing you're going to notice when you get in here is that there's some data here already. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what this would look like if you put your information in. All right, let's go ahead and add an item so you can see how this thing works. I am going to just kind of make up an item. I'm going to say that I created a teddy bear and it is large. So let's go ahead and put him in. And as you can see right here, it created a SKU number for me and it generated a barcode. Now I know the barcode is tiny. We'll talk a little bit more about that later when we get to the barcode section, but the purpose of this is to kind of show you how this works for adding your item. And let's say he is a $30 teddy bear. So I'm going to go ahead and put my price in there. And if we go to this sales tab right now, you'll see there's nothing in here. Now what I'm going to do with this tab is I am going to right click on it and I am going to say duplicate. And then I'm going to rename it Fall Market, for example. And what you can do with this is you can make one for each of your markets and track your sales in here using a barcode scanner. I'm going to show you how that works if you are at a market with your iPad and a little barcode scanner so you can kind of see how that works. So let's switch up the view here so I can show you that. All right, hopefully you'll be able to see everything clearly here, but basically I have three things. I have my iPad with the spreadsheet open, that's the free resource. I have printed from that same free resource all of my barcodes, and then I have a barcode scanner that you can get for as little as $35 on Amazon. I want to say this one was $50 or retails for $50, but I got it for a little less. But yeah, so we've got our three items here, and let's say we're at our market and someone comes up to our booth and they pick a few things and they want to purchase them. So we can come over to our sheet and we can scan the corresponding barcode for each of those items. And it's just going to add it to our sales tracking list. Now, this is not something where you're going to ring the customer up using this. This is just strictly for you to track all of your sales for the day so that you don't have to write them down. And over off to the side here, I've got a running total. So you can see so far, we've sold $150 in items. So as you can see, that then saves all of your sales for the entire day. So no more having to write it down in a notepad. And I'm not trying to take it away from you. If you like writing it down, that is awesome. I am just more of a data kind of person. So I feel like it's something that could save you some time. And then you automatically have things that you can sort and you can filter to just kind of see what your best sellers are and things like that. So that's it. That is the demo. I just wanted to show you at a high level how this thing will generate a SKU number for you if you'd like it to, a barcode for you if you'd like it to, and how you can maybe use it at a market if you wanted to go ahead and invest in a small barcode scanner and just have a quick way of tracking things. Okay, let's get into some details about the free resource. Now, you kind of saw it in action with that little demo there, but there's a little more detail to it that I want to run through. First and foremost, I want to let you know that when you click the link in the description, it's going to take you to a little form on my website where you enter your email address and you click download. It's not going to email you anything. It's going to immediately download the file for you to your downloads, whatever that's set at in your computer. The reason I'm doing it this way, where you're entering your email address, is for a couple of reasons, actually. First and foremost, I want to learn the technology behind my website. So this is something that I'm trying as a new thing to see if I can put all my links there so they're all in one spot. And I don't have to manage like lists of patterns and lists of things on Amazon and stuff like that. And then second, it's going to add you to my email list. Now, I'm not planning on sending a bunch of emails. I'm not going to blog or anything like that, at least at this point. And again, it's not going to email you, but whatever first email you do get down the road, which is probably going to be either an update to this spreadsheet if I make any updates, and it's going to let you know if you want to get a new one, or it's going to be me announcing that I've launched my website. And if for some reason you do not want any more emails from me, you can just click unsubscribe. A quick note, I might reference this as Sheet or Spreadsheet or Google Sheet or Excel. To me, they're all kind of interchangeable. This will work in Excel. This will work in Google Sheets, either the app or in the Chrome browser. However you want to use it, it should work fine. The one thing I will mention is that when you first open this up, you may not see the barcodes. The reason for that, and I'll get into it a little more when we talk about the barcodes specifically, is that it is essentially using a URL to call a service that generates the barcode based on whatever your SKU number is. So if your system is kind of locked down and it doesn't allow it to make that call as a safety precaution, you might have to click allow. If you cannot get the barcodes to show up, either because you don't want to allow the system to make that call or you cannot figure out how to do it, don't worry about it. The barcodes actually don't need to be in this spreadsheet for you to use it the way that I showed you. The most important thing is the SKU numbers. We'll get to that when we get to that detail. And I'll show you a couple of other ways to get barcodes if you don't want to allow it or can't get them to show up in the spreadsheet. You'll notice a few different tabs in the spreadsheet, and I'm just going to run through those really quickly so you know what those are about. The first one is some helpful notes, and that's exactly what it's called. If you get stuck at some point or you're unsure of how something works, or it's something I thought that you might want to know about, I put it in that tab so you can search and just try to find anything related to that. If you have any other questions, you can put them in the comments or shoot me a message. Next is inventory, and that's that tab that I showed you. You'll notice in there some of the fields have green headers and some have gray headers. The reason for that is I'm kind of letting you know where the gray headers are having some kind of formula in them. So you don't necessarily want to mess with those unless you know what you're doing when it comes to the formulas. Don't be afraid of them. You can click on those cells and see right in the top what the formula is doing, but just know that changing things in there could modify how the SKU is generated and or the barcode. Feel free to type away and change things in the green cells. It's not going to hurt anything at all. Next is barcode print. So in that demo where I scanned this into my iPad, you saw me scan on a sheet. That is right from this. This is the barcode print sheet. It automatically puts in all of your items and your barcodes spaced in a way that they'll scan pretty well with most scanners. I can't guarantee it because there's a lot of different scanners out there, but this is just a quick way to print all of your barcodes if you don't want to necessarily tag all the individual plushies. And next up is barcode export, and that's literally just the barcodes, no other information, and a little bit larger in case you want to try to export those to print some stickers or anything like that. Canva has a feature called bulk import, I think it's called, where you can upload a bunch of different names of your plushies, barcode images, and all kinds of things like that. And then it will automatically create essentially like a Canva document with each one on a different page. And that is how I did my first upload of everything so that it was a little faster. And then I just print those out on my Munbin printer and I stick them onto my tags and attach those to the plushies. If that's something you're interested in seeing a video about, let me know. It is a lot of upfront work to set everything up, but once it's done, I find it pretty quick anytime I'm adding a new item to my inventory. And last but not least is the sales tab. And as I mentioned in the demo, you can make a copy of that to track a specific market and all of the sales that happened at that market. Now, this is not a purchasing system, so it's not something where you're ringing up just that individual customer. It's just keeping a tally of all of the items on that list, which is everything you would have sold that day. This resource is something that is near and dear to my heart. I love data. I love technology. You guys know that. And I worked really hard to kind of put something together for you that I hope brings you some value. And if anything, gives you something to explore. So again, don't be afraid to click around in there, look at the formulas. Even if you're not going to use it, just fiddle around with it, take a look, see what you think. If you have questions, do put them in the comments or send me a message if you don't want to put it in the comments. I will do my best to help you. Unfortunately, I can't fully tech support it. It's not something where I could, remote into your computer and see what's going on and try to fix it for you. It should work, like I said, in Excel or in Google Sheets. A security may block you seeing the barcode. I don't know how to adjust that for each individual person's level of security, but if you Google it, it'll probably take you through some steps you can try to see if you can see it. Like I said, it's not imperative to being able to use it for tracking your sales. You don't actually need the barcodes in there at all. The important piece there is the SKU numbers, so have no fear if you don't see the barcodes. But like I said, I'll help you as much as I possibly can, but I may not necessarily be able to solve for everything. All right, let's get into the most important piece of this, as I just mentioned, which is SKU numbers. When it comes to SKU numbers, all you have to know is it's a unique identifier. It can be as simple as a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those are all unique, or you can get as complex as you want to be. If you were to look inside the formula of the resource that I gave you, it's basically combining a few bits and bobs to create a 6-digit SKU number. It is taking the first two letters of the name that we put into the plushie. So dragon would be DR, for example. Then it is taking the first letter of the identifier column. So that could be size like large, so DRL. And then it is taking the line number. So if a dragon is line 5, it's going to be 005. It's basically just putting it together like that as if you were concatenating something. This is going to make sure that it always stays unique. You could have two large dragons, but they're always going to be on a different row. So row 5 is going to be DRL 005 and row 6 will be DRL 006, if that makes sense. You'll want to determine ahead of time what level you want to track your sales on. How granular do you want to get? So I recommend at the very minimum tracking your SKUs and sales by price points. So for an example, you could have all of your $5 items have the first SKU, all of your $10 items have a second SKU, and then all of your $15 items have a third SKU, and so on. You may want to go a little bit more granular and track, for example, that you have small axolotls as one SKU, medium axolotls as another SKU, and large axolotls as another SKU. So you now would have a different SKU for your axolotls that are $5 versus all of your other items. You can even go another step further. So maybe you have all of your $5 axolotls as one SKU number because you use scrap yarn for those. You don't care what color they were, what style they were, they're just $5 axolotls. That would be one SKU number. And then maybe you want to track your larger axolotls by color because you buy specific yarn for that. So you want to know if your purple axolotl sold better than your blue axolotl, and then you would have a SKU for your purple, your blue, your pink, and your green. This all comes down to how detailed you want to be about your sales and what you want to see. Do you care what color sold? Do you care what size sold? You know, it's completely up to the individual creator. I definitely recommend starting a little more broad, and then you can always add SKU numbers if you narrow things down a little further in the future. So maybe start by price point if you're new to this, or start by item. So, you know, $5 axolotls has one SKU, $5 mushrooms have another SKU, $10 axolotls have one SKU, $10 mushrooms have another SKU, and it doesn't matter what color or anything else about them. But again, it's completely up to you. I do want to mention that if you use Square to ring up your transactions on credit cards, they do offer a free inventory system. You just have to go into your account online and they have an item inventory list, and it will generate a unique SKU number for you. So you don't need to do anything other than put the information in about your item and it'll generate that SKU number for you. I'm not going into detail on how to do that in this video, but if it's something you're interested in me showing on a video, let me know in the comments down below. I'm getting pretty proficient in doing so. That's where I'm moving all of my inventory to, but I am using my own custom SKU numbers at this time. Okay, let's jump into barcodes. There are all different types of barcodes. I think the one that we're all most familiar with is a UPC code that you would find on the back of any product. That is a universal product code that is really long and extensive, and it's something that is carried across multiple systems. So if you ring that item at, your grocery store versus ringing that item at a Target, it's all the same information. And again, the key thing to remember about barcodes is they're like a font. You don't have to necessarily know what type of barcode's being used or anything like that. If you are curious, in this case, we're using one called Code 128. The difference between the different types of barcodes is essentially kind of how they're being used and what the number they're representing is made up of. So like I mentioned, it's kind of like thinking of it as a font. And if you've ever downloaded a font, sometimes that font comes with all of the letters in capital, but none of them in lowercase, or maybe it comes with all of them in capital and lowercase, but it doesn't come with any symbols or numbers. So that's how the different barcode types vary. So some of them can only handle numbers, some can only handle, up to a certain character limit of numbers and letters. The particular code type that we are using in this example is called Code 128. And I just chose that type because it's not something that's super huge, but it also handles letters and numbers. And I wanted my SKU numbers to consist of that. But again, you don't need to know any of that. I'm just letting you know in case you were curious about it. So if you open up the free resource and you are able to see the barcodes, you can right click on those and save them as an image, and it will save as like a PNG or however you want to save it so that you can put that into creating some stickers and stuff. I also mentioned I gave you other tabs that might be a little bit more helpful for that. Depending on what you're using, it's going to vary on how useful that is to you. And like I mentioned, if you can't get them to show up, whether you don't want to allow the securities to pass it or you can't figure out how to do it, don't worry about it. The SKU is the most important thing because that's our individual identifier. And if you generate your barcode a different way, it won't matter. When you scan it, it's still going to recognize it as that SKU because again, we're thinking of it as a font. And if you cannot get them to generate in the spreadsheet, there's 2 resources listed down below depending on how you want to do things. They're actually the same resource and just different areas. So the first link, if you look here and you click that, it's going to open up a barcode immediately. This is for generating a single barcode. All you have to do is replace that ABC_123 with your SKU number, and then it's going to change into the barcode for your particular item. You can right click and you can save that image to your PC and use it however you would like. Now, doing those one at a time can be very time consuming, so you'll see a link right below that called Batch Barcodes, where you can download a template and it'll tell you how to fill out the template. You can fill that out in like a spreadsheet form and then upload it and it'll generate them all again for you. This is super, super helpful. Did anyone notice that we're filming this video, yet I showed you the description box for this video? It's like video inception.
We're still in the middle of making it. Oh, that's true, sir. But there's been a new breakthrough in home video marketing.
You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now? Soon.
A couple of quick notes about barcodes as we wrap things up. First of all, you don't have to tag each individual item. Like I said, you can have a little list or you can do a combination thereof. So what I do is I tag everything but my minis or anything that's kind of in a bucket for a single price. And then when someone walks up, I do track the mini at the level of what it is. So I have a barcode for my mini axolotls versus my mini capybara. That was extremely helpful to me in reconciling when I got back home. Everything matched completely, except for the fact that what I did was I accidentally put my barcodes too close together and didn't catch. Once in a while I would scan like a frog and it was really an axolotl. But I was able to remedy that in my inventory. And now when I print my list, I'm giving a little more space between each of the barcodes. The other thing I want to mention is Square does have a barcode generation service. I have not explored that because it does come at an additional cost, and I'm pretty comfortable with using the systems that I have in place, and I'd really rather just not go into that expense at the moment. But that might be something to look into if you're wanting to really get into this. My understanding is that it generates your SKU for you, which we already know, and it generates the barcode for you, and it does automatically print them to a printer. I don't know all the details behind that. I did notice that it doesn't necessarily directly support Munbin. So if you're considering a thermal printer or a printer for your barcodes and using Square, you're just going to want to check those 2 things. Last thing I'll say on this is it does take some time to get yourself set up the first go around. If you're starting with an inventory of 100 things or you constantly change things, you're going to have to give good consideration to what you're generating a SKU for. If you are always making new and different items, then maybe you just want to do one at a price point and have one barcode for each of your major price points. If you're doing it in a way that you have a pretty consistent staple inventory and just want to have your once in a while items and have one barcode for that where you type in the price, you can do that as well. So just keep in mind that it does take some time to set up if you're starting with a list of things already. But once you have it set up, it's really easy to just generate 1 or 2 if you make a new item. All right, let's talk about barcode scanners, because what's the use of having a barcode if you can't scan it? Pretty much everything I've shown you is free. You don't have to pay for any of the generating of your SKU, of your barcode, of any of that stuff. But the one expense you will have if you want to use barcodes is a barcode scanner. Now, I want you to think of a barcode scanner as like a Bluetooth keyboard. Because essentially that's all it is. A barcode scanner scans those bars, and based on the width and the spacing between them, it knows what letter or number is represented, and it basically just keys in that SKU number for you. So if we look at our footage from when we did our demo, when I scan the number, it actually is in the SKU line. So it just typed in the SKU for me. You could use this spreadsheet and just type in your SKU if you didn't want to scan your barcodes, and it would pull up your item and all of its details. So a barcode scanner is nothing more than a keyboard. Now, the barcode scanner that I showed in the demo is going to be linked below, as well as a less expensive version. You can generally get these on Amazon for $30 to $50. They go up to hundreds if you want to get really fancy, but it's nothing that's needed. There are some that scan QR codes and do all kinds of other things, but a basic one is not going to cost you any more than about 35 bucks. One thing I want to mention when you get your barcode scanner is to definitely hang on to the manual. And the reason for this is that there are various codes in your manual that you can actually scan. And one of the things you'll need to do is troubleshoot using this. For example, when I first scanned my items in my spreadsheet, it was only putting in 1 or 2 letters. It wasn't getting the whole thing. And that's not a fault of the scanner itself. What that is the scanner is so fast that the iPad wasn't picking up what it was entering. It was like when you type too fast on a keyboard. I don't think that ever happens, but back in the day when we had the old computers, if you type too fast, sometimes the keyboard wouldn't catch up. But that's essentially the same thing that's happening here. So in this manual, there's a place where you can scan it to say, hey, slow it down so that the entry is a little more like a real world typing of a keyboard. And then that works beautifully. One thing I will note with these less expensive scanners is that you probably have to do that every time. So anytime I want to use this with my iPad, I have to scan that little code in this book that says, hey, slow it down because my iPad ain't that quick. All right, let's talk a little bit about how all of this stuff ties in if you use Square. So if you use Square to take your credit card payments, then you have access to some of the things I already talked about, which is like putting your inventory in there. And then you can use the barcode scanner to actually ring up your customers if you put those items in the inventory in Square. So I have done that, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in Square's free app on the iPad. All right, so now we are on my iPad in the Square app this time, and I am basically in checkout mode here, and I will click in the search bar to use a barcode scanner. So we're using that same scanner we had earlier, and I have a barcode here for my mini rats. So as I scan that, you'll see it puts the SKU number in for me. So it has searched. If you look over here, it's not in the cart yet. So to actually add it to the cart, you have to click the item that you're referring to, and then it's going to go ahead and put it in the cart for you. So you can see how this would quickly help you ring up a customer for all of the items that they want to purchase. So as you can see, it's pretty cool, but it's also a little bit clunky. And I think Square did this on purpose. So you saw that I had to click search, then I scan it, it puts my SKU number in, it brings up my items, then I have to pick the item, and then it puts it in the cart. And I think the reason that they did this is they wanted you to buy their scanner, which is not just a scanner, it is a complete handheld point of sale system that I did purchase. And this little baby here is not cheap. It is $400, but I bought it so that you don't have to. I didn't buy it so you don't have to. I bought it because I wanted it. Again, technology nerd. I had to have it when I saw it. And I purchased mine off of Amazon strictly because if I didn't like it, I wanted to be able to return it without a hassle, and I knew I could do that. But let me show you the difference in how this thing works versus the other barcode scanner. On the Square POS, there's this little button on the side, which is what you push to scan something. I'm in the checkout mode, just like you are on the app normally. All right, so we're going to go ahead and scan this barcode. And as you can see, it says review sale, 1 item. So if you click that, that'll take you right to your cart, and that's got it already added in the cart. So one of the benefits of using this is it immediately adds the item to the cart and you're ready to go. And if I wanted to add another one while I'm here in the cart, I can do that. It's just going to change the quantity to 2, and then I can charge the customer like I normally would using Square. So as you can see, it made things a lot more simple, and this can be used to take your tap payments. You can use it to take your card insert payments. This also has a camera on it, so you can use this to take the photos of your inventory. You can generate your barcodes however you want to generate them if you're not using Square, and then scan them into your inventory. I can do restocks with things that have the same SKU that already had it and I already have barcodes for by scanning them, and it puts them in my inventory. You can search, you can see your sales as the day is going by. It's got a lot of features. It is a huge investment, if you ask me, compared to a lot of the things that we buy for our crochet business. But I am in love with this thing. I have zero regrets about it. If it's something you're considering doing, you know, one thing you could do is maybe put X dollars back per market and let the markets build up to pay for it. If you do enough markets per year, I think the time savings in keeping track of your inventory and what your sales were for the day is huge. And this works for that. And if you're wondering how that goes when it comes to a cash or a different style of payment, you can click that the customer paid with cash on this, and it's just including it in your overall sales. But obviously it's not including it in, you know, taking Square's cut out of everything, because that's for the credit card piece. You can say that you took a payment type of other and type in Venmo, for example, which is what I did on my one Venmo transaction. And it's not doing anything with those other than keeping them in your sales report. And you know, this item sold by Venmo if you want to, you know, you can do all kinds of different things within the reporting and stuff. So for someone like me who absolutely loves technology, loves the data side, I love this thing. And that brings us to the end of the barcode piece of our video. I hope that some of the information and maybe this free resource, you know, helps clear things up for you if you are unsure or have never used barcodes. It is way less intimidating for me than it was when I first started looking into it. I was unsure how all of this was going to work. I learned all of this as I went. And I just, you know, wanted to share all of that with you in case it helps things, you know, go a little easier for you. So I hope that you enjoyed that piece if you watched this segment. But now we're done with that, and we are going to clean things up here from my demos, and then I will show you this week's makes. This week, I wanted to focus on making some splooting deer from Snugglebeans Crochet's Dory the Deer pattern. And I really wanted to make sure that I made one using Naughty Pony. And I did that. So I made a couple of these, and I'll tell you some details here. This is my first one made all in Naughty Pony, and I'm seeing all of the fluff, but I'll clean that later. So yeah, he's just super cute. I love these guys. I did 30 millimeter, I want to say, eyes on him. And I don't know if it picks up, but I wanted them to mostly be white, but I put some little bit of like mirror glitter in to kind of just pick up the light. I can't ever have it be plain. It's just me. He's got his little tail. Ah, they're so cute. I love the final version of this product. This is a 5.5 millimeter hook, by the way, 100% Naughty Pony. Whenever I can do 100% Naughty Pony, you know I'm going to do that. But I also made another one in Parfait Chunky. So that's this one. And that's just literally because I don't have enough colors, you know, to work with to make a bunch in Naughty Pony. Size-wise, they're pretty much the same. Same size eyes, everything. I did use a safety nose on both of these because I just thought it looked cute. I was debating embroidering like a red nose, so it's kind of Rudolph-y, and then if it didn't sell, cut it out and put a black one in. But I just ended up deciding, you know, it was something I wanted as my staple items, just a cute deer like in the Enchanted Forest kind of thing. So I went ahead and did that. I did feel like these were a little small for me. It's a lot of work, really. I mean, it's crocheted in the round. The arms and the legs are put in and the tail crocheted in the round. You do so on the ears, but it's still like a fair bit of work. So I wanted to try to make one in blanket yarn. So I grabbed my Premier Chenille Basics and started on that. But all I had in a dark brown was this really squidgy Bernat blanket. And it wasn't even brown. As I put it next to this, it felt a little more olive and it wasn't working out right. So of course I had to go ahead and order some more because I already had a lot of parts made. So you get to see his head. I'll show you the finished version of this in the next video because my yarn's supposed to arrive today. If I get it today and I finish it today, I'll put a picture up here when I'm editing. But yeah, this was 35 millimeter eyes, 6.5 millimeter hook. Again, I'll show you the finished product. But So I will have, by the end of this weekend, 3 splooting deer. I do like these better in the blanket size. I love using Naughty Pony, but if you look at the difference, it's pretty significant, you know, so I'm definitely gonna make a lot of these patterns going forward in blanket size yarn. The other thing I wanted to make was 10 minis of some sort. So I decided to go axolotl. I actually already had one left over from last time, this little white and black one. So that was still there. So I decided to make 9, which was relief for my hands to not have to make another one. So I made 3 in this kind of pinky color. I made 3 in lavender. These are all Bernat velvet. And a 4mm hook. And then I have some in blue. So I have my 10 of those. This got me to thinking as I was making these that I think I'm going to change my strategy up for minis after this market. There's a few things that I was thinking of. Number one, they're pretty small, you know, these are just bite-sized little nuggets of something. And while they're adorable, I'm charging $5 for these. They bother my hands going this small for so many. If I was making 1 or 2, it's fine, but trying to crank out 10, and I like to do them batch style because I don't want to stop and start. The way I did these, just as a side note, is I did all of the bodies and filled them as I went, tied them off, and then I surface crocheted this and I surface crocheted these. These are using the pattern by Loops and Knots Crochet. It's her free mini axolotl or little axolotl. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll pop it up. She does these in the round and does a color change. I didn't bother with that. I just did them as a surface crochet after and they look fine. But they're so small. And I was thinking, I also was trying to figure out, you know, what do I put in my mystery boxes if I'm running out of time? Do I want to change up what's in my mystery box? Does it make sense to put the same thing in my mystery box and like have an axolotl one? But then the axolotl is, you know, so small and I'm charging $5 for the mini, but it's $12 for the keychain. Is the value there? I was just starting to overthink everything. But I wanted to test making the same exact thing in Parfait Chunky. So I did one, and that's this one. And this was literally just grabbing some scraps that I had, some small bits. But look at the size difference. And when I did this, I weighed this guy and weighed this guy. He's like 8 grams and he's like 11 grams. So the difference in cost of materials is like 10 to 15 cents. So I'm thinking that after this market, I may, depending on how many of these I have left, may end up switching over to starting to make my minis in something a little bit larger. And then I'm thinking that what I can do is maybe do $6 each or 2 for 10. So if somebody wants to buy 2 of them, they're paying $5 each, which is still really good as far as a profit standpoint for what they cost in materials and time, because it's just as time consuming to make this one as it is this one. It's no more or less. So yeah, and same thing with this one. I just surface crocheted the bits and bobs on the end. So I'm thinking about doing that. I'm going to see how the rest of this, you know, market prep goes. But I think just for sake of my hands, if it doesn't bother my hands to make them in Parfait Chunky compared to making them in the Bernat Velvet, then maybe I'll save the velvet for characters that are going into my mystery bag charms versus just having the minis. And then that's something that makes them distinctive as well. So just something I'm thinking about. I figured I would share. Next week is going to kind of be cat week. I have on my list some cat patterns that I haven't done before that I want to try. One of which is Snuggle Beans Crochet. I think it's Cookie the cat. So I'll be doing that in blanket yarn. And then there's another 1 or 2 patterns that I was considering trying. So yeah, I'm going to be focusing on some cats. I want to do some mini little loaf style cats for my mystery bag charms. So I'll be doing those as well. But yeah, that is all I have to show for today. As always, thank you so much for watching and I will see you on the next one. Bye.